Two of the biggest problems that Notion has right now are number one, the lack of an offline mode, and number two, the way that database permissions work, or rather the way that they don't work. But based on a tweet that Notion shared publicly yesterday, it looks like they might be finally close to fixing that second problem. Before we get into the tweet though, I want to give you a little bit of background here because number one, this video isn't a confirmed new feature coverage video. It's something that Notion is teasing. And number two, I want to use this video to explain this problem, which really is one of Notion's biggest problems, to people who don't quite understand it. You see, if you go on Reddit or you talk to the average person who uses Notion for personal use, they're going to tell you that offline mode is by far the biggest problem Notion has. And I get it, not being able to use Notion on a plane kind of sucks sometimes. But talk to anybody who's using Notion with a team or anyone who's, say, a freelancer trying to use Notion with clients, and they'll tell you the database permissions problem is actually the bigger one. It's not quite as easy to explain as no internet, no Notion. That's very simple, but here's the gist. Say I want to have a centralized task management database for my team. I can quickly make a database. I can even add an assignee property. And then if I want to, I can create a filtered view of that database where, say, Alex can see only the tasks assigned to him. But here's the problem. Alex still needs access to the entire database to see those tasks, which means that technically he can go see anyone else's tasks as well. All he would have to do is make his own view of that database with no filters or just use the search tool. In Notion, permissions are set at the database level or at the page level. Those are the only two options we have. We can't, for example, set permissions based on a filtered view of a database like you could in, say, an SQL database if you were building an app from scratch. And this leads to two equally bad choices. Number one, you can remove somebody's access from a database entirely and then very tediously add them to specific pages, which I actually have to do in certain cases, or you just give everyone access to everything. And that can become quite a problem, especially if you're working with clients. I've actually seen freelancers set up client services dashboards using full centralized databases where they think they're giving a client just a slice of that database, but actually that client has access to potentially confidential information of other clients they shouldn't be seeing. And even though I've seen lots of Notion nerds try to come up with clever workarounds for this that they think work, in reality, right now, there's only one thing you can do to solve this problem, and that's to use the Notion API to take data out of your sensitive, locked down database and either duplicate it to a more open database or to a third-party client portal tool like Softer. That's really the only way you can do it right now. But the tweet that Notion shared yesterday actually sheds some light on the situation. So I'm going to switch over to my little screen share view here and show this tweet. What I want to say up front is I don't know if this is Notion actually announcing a new feature or if it's a mock-up, but the fact that they've chosen to show this in the first place lends me a lot of hope. I also wanted to use this tweet and this event here as a sort of excuse to finally make a video on this problem because a lot of people run into it and don't really understand what the nature of the problem is. So I'm finally taking that opportunity. But let's dive into the tweet. I'm going to zoom in just a couple of ticks here so it's easier to read. So this is showing a presentation that Sam Catania, one of the PMs at Notion, made recently, and it's on this hiring system he built, a sort of a mock-up showing how you could do like a whole hiring flow in Notion. I'm not going to get too into the weeds on what he built here. You can go check out the video if you are curious. What I want to point your attention to is right around 1 minute and 31 seconds. And I'm going to try to maximize this and get my face out of here so I can full screen it. Right here, we can see there is a permissions section in this database page with can edit and can view properties. Not only that, this wasn't just slipped into the presentation, Sam actually calls it out.
So we also can have these automations and we can click a button and advance the stage, and at different points in the stage, we'll actually trigger notifications. We'll change some permissions on the page.
Now, what I don't know is whether or not this is a mock-up just using regular people properties, or if this is something that's actually in development at Notion. But the fact that Notion is willing to at least point it out and make it public is a good sign to me. So that brings me to the other reason that I'm making this video. I wanted to, number one, educate people on the nature of this problem. But number two, I wanted to make a video to express that I think this should be prioritized over a lot of other features that I do see being prioritized now. For example, I know AI features are hot right now, but speaking both from my personal experience as a team leader, but also from my experience talking with CEOs, agency owners, and people who are running their own teams, I think this is actually more important. If people are going to be able to build their own software, especially in a collaborative context, they need access to more powerful permissions tools, flat out. And here are just a few examples of pain points that this would solve. Let's switch over to my little screen view real quick. So this is our meeting notes database. And I think I mentioned this earlier, but this is the one meeting notes database we use in our company. And I'm pretty sure I can show at least the titles of these meetings. Now, we have an admin group in our company, but we also have other people who are part of certain meeting notes, which means every time I create a meeting note for people who are not in our admin group, I have to add those people manually to the note that they need access to, because I can't give them access directly to the database itself. Similarly, if I want to have a centralized task and project manager for my team, the lack of permissions structures that we have today means I have to give everyone on the team access to the same exact task database, which means that I often have to think twice if I want to put sensitive information that maybe certain people shouldn't see in a task's details or in its page body. I know a lot of other companies solve this by having multiple meeting notes databases or multiple task managers in different team spaces, and this gets really, really clunky. But where it gets very clunky, this is the third example I'm going to give, is with client services workflows. Recently, I had a long talk with a CEO who was managing an agency that works with tons of business owners and executives, as well as a ton of writers who help those executives create content. And they were trying to create a system in Notion where they could manage both the client side and a job queue for their writers. And they hit this wall where they realized we have to give every client access to the same database, or we have to create an individual database for every single client, and this creates a ton of managerial overhead. With better database permission setting properties, that problem would be solved. But unfortunately, because they don't exist, that CEO realized their only course of action was to leave Notion for this purpose and go find an alternative tool. So again, the reason I'm making this video beyond just for the purposes of educating people on the crux of this problem is to hopefully encourage anyone from Notion watching this to prioritize this feature. I think it is, again, one of the most important things that Notion is missing today. I would go so far as to say it's more important than offline mode. And I realize that's going to be blasphemous to a lot of people watching this, especially who want to use Notion for personal use and who hope to see it pushed more in that direction. But the fact of the matter is, Notion is inherently a collaborative tool. It is a tool that allows us to create software, often that supports team workflows. And this is the biggest missing piece to that mission right now, in my opinion. Now, I want to go back to the presentation that Sam put up here, and I'm going to maximize the screen really quickly so you can actually see when I full screen the video, if this feature is actually going to look like this. If this is going to be the sort of form factor for this feature going forward with these properties, I have three little requests that I would like to bring to the Notion team. Number one, and I think this is super important for anybody working with clients, make this work with guests. Don't allow us to just set permissions for members and workspaces. Also allow us to set permissions for guests. That way we could bring clients into a workspace without making them full-fledged and paid workspace members. That just wouldn't make financial sense in a lot of cases, especially for people working with a lot of clients. Request number two, I would love if these properties worked with automations and filters. So I could basically create a filtered view of, say, tasks that are assigned to a certain person. And when I create a task in that view, it automatically sets those permissions properties, and I don't have to do anything manual. And wishlist item number three, again, if they are going with this permission property direction that we saw in the video, I would like to see a bit more cohesion around seeing who has access to a page definitively, because we have the share menu, which shows which people and groups and team space groups have access to a specific page. If we also have this separate permission property area, things are going to get a bit confusing. So I do think we need something a bit more centralized to definitively know who's got access to this page, and hopefully it's very easy to see. Now, if I could wave a magic wand to get exactly what I wanted, I don't know that I would do permission properties. I would probably do something like an actual row-level policy editor, even if it meant higher technical skill requirements to use it. I do think that would be overall more powerful and more flexible, but I do think that this approach would at least work. And again, it would be much better than having absolutely no options whatsoever, or having to go to a third-party portal tool to get this functionality, sort of turning Notion into a backend. If you work at Notion and you're at this point in the video and you watch the whole thing, thanks so much for hearing me out. Again, I don't think these are just my own wants here. I've talked to a lot of people who use Notion in collaborative contexts, and this really is a big pain point. If you don't work at Notion and you watch this entire video, hopefully you found this helpful. Again, I've been explaining this problem in text responses and in our customer community, all sorts of places for years. People often butt into it without understanding really what the problem's crux is. So I wanted to make this video both to sort of air out my complaints, but also explain that problem, hopefully in a comprehensive way, and hopefully you found it helpful. If you want to learn more about Notion databases, I've got a video right there which will teach you all the basics. And if you want to learn more about automations, which I did mention in this video and which have gotten really powerful lately, check out this video right here. Until my next one, I'll see you in the next one, which makes no sense, but I'm going to roll with it. Bye.